We are live with Pierre. Hang on. Mary, how are you? Ree, Cindy. Cindy. The Dudester. Valerie Collymore.
Oh my God. You know what? Andrew, I feel a little still, a little motionless today.
You look a little motionless, like you, and I don't know where your body is at the moment. Mateo.
So I lost my body.
Uh-oh.
Oh my God.
Hang on, I'll help you look for it.
Ah.
Oh, there you are.
I found my body, but I still feel a little motionless in my face, no?
Yes. Alexandra, Vivi, Vered. We have lots of friends joining us today.
Ah.
Raymar, Esther,
Ooh.
Oksana, Diana.
Ah. All right. I don't think I'm gonna draw an apple. So
Susan, how are you?
Okay, so let's see. Maybe I should take my phone. Sorry, just 1 second. I should probably get in. Should I get in too? Oh, voilà. Tac, tac. Up.
Here, I'll do that. You.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay.
I get this up and
Emily and Catherine. Dora. Janice.
voilà.
Oh, volume.
Ah. Okay, so are we ready? Just one thing. If I take
Quang is here with us. Quang, we will
Oh my
we will
God.
have you join us in just a couple of minutes here.
Already. Oh my God!
Van-
I gotta get to it. Okay.
Vanessa, we
ready?
saw your message, Vanessa. I'll reply to you today.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Bonjour! This is Pierre at Savoir-Faire, Pierre's Adventure, you know, all this great stuff. Thank you again to be here today. You know, it has been 9 months, you know, 9 months, almost 275 days since the first live, since the pandemic arrived, and you've always been here every week, everything. This is the weekly party, so very nice. So I'll do my little intro, trying to keep it short because today, wait until you see the treat we have for you. So anyways, want to remind you, tough year, March, the pandemic, lockdown, shelter in place, we closed, and then we decide how can art help the world, help yourself. So we've been very active in spreading the love of art all over, you know, by giving art supplies, by doing live, by supporting our community, our neighborhood, association, school, you know, and we know through the arts we'll get through it. And you have, thank you all. I see so many beautiful things, you know, how art helps you, helps your mental health, help you, your energy, help the communication, help sharing, help all of that. So that's what we've been all about for those, you know, 9 months now. Like I said, I could have had a baby by now, you know, since March, sort of. So this is all about, and this is something I would like to keep that theme on. We need to speak up for the world of art. You know, the pandemic, first wave, injustice, uprising, craziness, the fire, you know, horrible here. You know, there was some tornadoes, hurricane. Then started the election, the craziness about the election. Then the second wave. Then now we're talking about the third wave. So it's endless. So let's continue together through art will prevail. So now, today, very, 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 very special. I'm so happy Quang accepted to come, just last minute invitation. He said, yes, sure. So I think we shouldn't wait any longer. Please, Quang! Ho! Ho! Is it Quang? All right.
Quang is on his way. We sent the invite.
All right. So meanwhile, I'm just.
There we are.
Oh my goodness!
Look at
Pierre,
this,
hang
huh?
on. I have to show Pierre. He can't see the camera.
Bonjour, Pierre.
Bonjour, and where is the baguette?
Look at this. Do I look French? What do you think?
Very nice.
You are the best. All right.
How are you?
Oh, I'm so well. I mean, under the circumstances, I'm very, very good under the circumstances. It's been a crazy year. And on top of all those issues I talked about, the virus, the uprising, the injustice, the fires, the elections, blah, blah, blah. Despite all that, yes, I'm good. I feel fortunate that we are confined in paradise. We are in the arts. We've been able to share the love of art. And also, we just did something in our company. We merged, and now I'm going to be able to spend more time with you. So
wonderful.
You and again and all our friends. So looking good, my man.
Alors, that is wonderful.
Let's speak French then.
And pitcher. No, that's right. No, I don't.
All right. So let's chat for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, chat about you and so forth. I'm going to improvise a few questions. And then I think people are very anxious. Hopefully, you will be able to show a bit your studio, your painting, even you may touch something. We'll see. But let's start with the beginning. Quang. Yes, you have a question already?
No, I was just going to ask. I'm curious where Quang is right now. I'm always curious. It changes. So.
Yeah. So where are you today?
Dude, right now I am standing in my studio in rural Pennsylvania, near Lancaster, near Amish country. And it's getting a little dark outside, but it's very beautiful outside, beautiful countryside. And around me, this is my studio, and I will show you a little bit what's going on in here.
Okay.
But we just literally built the studio a year or so ago and just started to paint in here. Across the way, there's a big easel over there. But yes, I'm in Pennsylvania.
Fantastic.
All right. So we'll go back to visit your studio a little further. I just want to start with the beginning, if you don't mind, Quang. I had the honor and the privilege and the pleasure to have known you. We've met, oh my God, we've met in so many places. I can't keep track, in San Diego, in Denver, in San Francisco, in New Mexico, at Portrait Society, what was it, in Atlanta or in DC?
I think that's where we first met, was at Portrait Society. Yeah.
So with that, but we'd like to know, I'm interested, and I believe probably everybody's right. Can you tell us briefly about how you started? I always like to start with the beginning. How did you get involved in art? How come we were so lucky to have you in the art world? How did that come about?
Oh, thank you so much. I started, well, I came from Vietnam. I came to America in 1975 at the age of 12. But I started drawing since I was 2 or 3 or 4, and most kids do, but I never stopped. And so I was always the best in class. And so when I came to America, I didn't know any English at all. So I got to sit in class and just drew while all my other classmates, had to do schoolwork. So so that's how I started. And then when I was in high school, I had won all the arts competitions there, and then went on to get a scholarship to the Colorado Institute of Art. And from there, I met my mentor, his name was Rennie Bruin. He's a gypsy, from New York City, and kind of a very little known artist who was self-taught, and he's to me one of the most brilliant minds I've ever met, still to this day, who teach me the whole big picture about painting. So I was always the hot shot at knowing how to draw, but there's a big difference between that and understanding how to paint, the whole big dialogue of painting. So that's where I started out, and in 1985 I became a freelance illustrator out of there was a 2-year program, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years. But on the side, I would do my own oil paintings, just for fun. And at that time, I had met Richard Schmid and David Lafell and all those wonderful painters back then, and was amazed by their work. But and so by 91, I had phased out of illustration, and I had my first solo show and sold out that show, and I had three sellout shows in a row since those years, and then it just kind of went on its own after that, as you can imagine. And part of the process through there was I took over teaching, substituted for a class for Ramon Kelly, who's an artist in Denver.
Oh,
and,
I know Ramon. Yeah.
I bet you do. I mean, you know everybody, Pierre. And so I never taught before, but when I took over that class for just 1 month, I really never had articulated the idea about painting before. And when I went into it, I realized that in order to make myself understandable, to make the idea known to the other artists, to the students, I had to make it clear to myself as well. And that's when I realized I was learning more from teaching than anything. So since then, I've really been, passed on this information to everybody that are in my workshops and so on.
All right. So let me tell you from what I remember. Like I don't remember clearly. It's been so many things. So I'm trying to remember one of the first time we met or we seen each other was maybe not the first time we crossed road, but the first time I remember having a stronger interaction, I believe, was probably at plein air in San Diego about 3 or 4 years ago. And it's interesting because I watched a video. It was probably the first year I started my Pierre's Adventure. So you were one of the first Pierre's Adventure, totally improvised. I didn't know you. But what happened at this show, I thought I knew a lot of people in plein air. With my background with the Impressionism and all that, I thought I knew most of plein air painter. And then I keep on hearing your name. Everybody, oh, Quang is here. Oh, Quang is doing a demo. Oh, Quang this, Quang that. You got a new game. What? You don't know Quang? Oh my God. I mean, all of a sudden, I thought I was, you were like God or something. So I think I remember we gave you, I don't know if it was me or Rema or Catherine or Emily, gave you a little panel. I think it was the 64, and said, oh, yeah, you should try it, experiment, blah, blah, blah. And then I remember we were there and I interviewed you, and it was one of the first interviews. I just found it. We tried to post it. I don't know if it came out. And yes, that's how I first met. So when I the first time we interact, I thought I had met God. And then I realized you were real. And then ever since, I love your personality. I love who you are, above and beyond
Thank you.
Your talent as a teacher, as an artist. And I've discovered after going to see some of your studios and different things that your body of work is actually much wider than what people sometimes think. But what's the most, not intriguing, the most, what really I love the most is your sense of your humility, you're modest, and you are a person who loves people. And I could see you are very generous, empathic, and I see how you speak, your people around you. So I'm very impressed with you as a humankind. So that's what I remember of you. So
thank you. That's very kind.
And another thing which I'd like to talk to you, because you are very known in oil. you know, your painting in oils. I knew about your teaching. In fact, Henry Meininger was always talking to me about you. Oh my God, you need to meet Quang and all that. Like before we met, you know, you were one of the like Ramon Kelly. I don't know, maybe it was at the same time. And you are very famous for your oil. And then actually, I think it's Andrew who told me, like maybe a year or 2 years ago, I forgot, you suddenly discovered watercolor. So tell me a little bit about that. How is it, how do you, after all this year, you're such a professional, and then all of a sudden you discover a new medium for you, and how, tell us about this.
Well, I think that watercolor is so wonderful. It's not that I just discovered it, but I decided to dive into it because I think it's going to inform me on a different, because it reacts a whole different way. It behaves a whole different way than oils, and it does things that oil can't do. But it's very unforgiving, as you know. But I think that it will allow me to see composition and compose in a whole different way than I would with oil. And then I can take those ideas and make it work larger in oils, you see. So, and I love it. It's really wonderful. It's such an immediate medium, and already it's informing, you know. And I love it as a standalone medium. In fact, what I'm doing, I had this idea. I'm going to make a leather bound, make my own leather bound, really beautiful handle portfolio, and just fill them with watercolor paintings, and then have this one book after another. And so that's the idea. I just love them like that. It's a whole different thing. You can frame them, and you can keep them as loose pages, but I can experiment with ideas really quickly, and I can show them to you as I show you my wall over here with them hanging on the wall to inform.
Yeah, no, we really want to see that. So let's stop for another minute or two, and then we'll move on the field trip of your studio. But I want to go back just for a second about that it's not a transition. If I understand correctly, is you work parallel. There is no real direct connection with your work in oil or your work in watercolors, even though one feed another, but it's a different body of work. The reason I'm saying that is because with our experience from the Sennelier family, when we talk about watercolors in the 19th century, we developed our watercolors for the people like Cézanne and things like that. But it was originally more for those oil painters to use watercolor sort of a sketch as a, to paint plein air, because it can't always afford to spend all this time to do full painting outside. So they would do watercolor as studies, as a reference, as a thing to bring home. And then now people take photos. But that was kind of the mindset. It was rarely just a new inspiration, a new style. But for you, it's totally different. You get inspired differently. You have different subjects. Or tell us.
Yeah, well, it's both of those things, really. I think for example, I was traveling down in Georgia at a little island called Little St. Simon's Island, and we were there for a week. And I didn't bring my oils. I brought my watercolor to do paintings on location, really quick, just get the thoughts down, And a quick watercolor will give me everything I need to know about a composition. I can solve all that. And oftentimes in a large oil painting, detailing isn't really the problem. The problem is the composition. If I like the composition, then finishing it is very easy. If I don't like it, it doesn't matter how much time I put into it, I won't like it, So with the watercolor, I can get a very immediate response to that, right? So I can get the whole structure down, the mood of it, the feel of it, and all of that. And also, it also connects me to what I'm painting. So if I take a photograph and I'm there in a hurry and I take a quick photograph, I come back, I look at the photograph, it hasn't sunk in as much as if I sat there long enough to do a little watercolor at least, And on top of that, a watercolor is if you see Andrew White's painting, I love his watercolors more than his temperas or anything else. they're so beautiful. They just have that natural translucency, you know. And so I use it to do both. And also, I'll take chances with colors with watercolor because it's quick that I may not do with oil, and all of a sudden I'll see a relationship there that I hadn't thought about before. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
exactly. So it's so like you said, it's a little both. But just a second, when you mentioned Andrew Wyeth, it was
Yeah.
interesting because 25 years ago, when I started to really work very closely with Fabriano, I was trying to Fabriano, the Artistico was not as famous as it is today in some circles. So I was trying to look in the history, and the first master painter I found that claimed using Fabriano was Andrew Wyeth. So,
Oh, wonderful.
and I found it in a museum somewhere in the south, somewhere in the.
Yeah.
I was like, wow! I could even see the watermark, and I said, yes.
Yeah.
That must be a good paper. So that's
Well, Fabriano paper is so wonderful, and thank you for sending me. I reached out to you to help me with the variety so I can test them out, and I just absolutely love them. I mean, the hot press is really fun too. I haven't mastered that yet. I have one on hot press over here, but the cold press, I find that the really rough cold press isn't for me as much as something in between those two, you know. And yeah, I'm having so much fun with that.
all right.
Now,
So now, yes.
we had a question, Cindy, or not a question, but a comment. But Cindy had mentioned that she really enjoyed your gouache paintings here in the comments too. So do you approach your gouache in the same ways that you approach your watercolor paintings?
Yes, gouache is like it's really wonderful. I start with watercolor, and then if I goof up or if it isn't going where I want it to go, I'll jump in with the gouache and then take the opacity of it, and that gives me a little crutch, you know. So, but gouache is a wonderful medium too, because you can work it very translucently if you want to, as much water as you want, and then you can dive in and get opaque with it. And I found, actually, I started out with watercolor because I wanted to paint with gouache more than with watercolor, because I thought that would give me more a range, more what's the word, more freedom, you know, to go outside and do quick little sketches that will feel almost like oils, except it's water. But as I was doing that, I loved the translucent period of it, and then I just started to say, well, I'm just going to do watercolor, and if I need to get the gouache, I'll do that. But it seems like I just found out that Wyeth actually he will list his paint watercolors as watercolor and gouache, and I was a little surprised by that because they always look so translucent, you know, transparent. I never saw, it must be in the really opaque white passages if he had any, right?
Yeah.
I'm really not sure. Yeah, I'm really not sure when he used the gouache, but
that's interesting, that distinction. It's very interesting that between gouache and watercolor, because technically it's almost the same thing. One more opaque, more matte, and the other one more transparent, and sometimes more luminous or more brilliant or glossy. But fundamentally, it's the same thing. In fact, originally gouache was the first water soluble medium, if you want.
yes.
Was first gouache, and it was used actually in France a lot, in continental Europe, I think even in Russia. I wonder if the name gouache doesn't have some Russian origin. I'm not sure, to double check. But
Yeah.
and then it's in England that they started with Turner and Cutban and different of those at the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century, that they started to really go into that transparent watercolor, and they started the whole whole trend. But it's funny because to these days, and we are fighting a little bit, there is still watercolor society that don't accept gouache as the medium, like they make a big difference. I think it's a little silly in my personal opinion. So I think, why not using both? Yeah, they are very complementary.
Yeah.
And then, so one more question, and then I think we need to go and see more your studio, show your artwork, and if we can, you can show us a little.
Yeah.
So the last question is, do you approach, what is the most important difference in oil in watercolor? You said it's more difficult. It's just one shot. It's the notion of spontaneity of just a one shot brush strokes. That's very different approach. Can you just touch on that quickly?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, gosh, they're very different. With oil, I feel I'm very confident. I can approach oil painting any way I want to. I could start with a light background. I could start with a dark background. I could start with the shadow first or the light first. Doesn't matter how I start. I can always steer it to where I want. And I have complete freedom and total control on it. With watercolor, you don't have that. And I've spent the first few months just like, pulling my hair out. I had to relearn, you know, you have to understand how to use it because there's a logic to it. You can start with dark and go back light if you're absolutely precise and know what you're doing. But it's easier to start with light washes and then bring in your mediums and your darks and that way. So it's a relearning. And oftentimes I'll do a watercolor without the quick drawing first, but it's so much easier if you roughed in a quick drawing first just to get your proportion, even without detail. Like if you see Sargent's watercolors, it's not a detailed drawing, but it's an accurate drawing, you know, and that gives you a sense of where everything should fall, and that helps you so I do that a little bit when I do a watercolor.
And there's a sense of spontaneity also, right? It's more like automatic painting. You think less, you just go with it, right? It's more
well, it's both. I do both. I'm like a race car driver when it comes to painting. Sometimes I'm speeding 100 miles an hour, you know, and then other times I take it slow and turn that corner really carefully. So you'll see on here paintings that are very very fast and explosive, and those are the ones when they work, there's nothing like them. When I go full speed and they work, it's the most beautiful, expressive things. But then there are times when you want to slow down and enjoy every touch of the brush and every little bleed, every little control. And so I have both that go on. I enjoy all of it.
Last comment, and then I think we have to start because we want to see all your work. But you cannot, every time you open the door, I have to get in. When you mention names and there is a connection, I can't help myself. You're talking about Sargent. Sargent, we also have kind of a history with him because even though he's American, but he grew up in Italy, his parents were in Italy, but he used to come to Paris. He actually studied in Paris at l'École des Beaux-Arts. And then he came back and he used to come to the Sennelier store, which is next to l'École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, and to get that brown pink, that famous brown pink that he wrote about it, in fact. And there's a whole story about the origin of brown pink. I don't want to hold the interview now. Let's move to your studio, but there is a very interesting...
No, wait. So brown pink, how come I don't know about this? Why didn't you tell me about this?
It's Andrew's fault.
It's Andrew's fault. So I want to believe that color is a color that you possess. I have to double check, but it doesn't look like what you'd expect from brown pink. It is a kind of a mossy green, translucent, kind of a golden green color.
Oh, I want it.
So I'll send you some details on it after the call.
So
now,
but you know something to be aware, it's not pink at all. And
right.
There is a story about it. And again, I don't want to spend too much time because we all want to see your studio, your painting and all that. But I'll say nothing. What's confusing is at the time, and again, I'm not a linguist, but my understanding is that in the old days, in the 19th, 18th century, pink didn't mean pink the way we know it today. In fact, pink, the name pink was used to refer to yellow sometimes. So actually, there is a yellow-green. So it's throwing off. It has nothing to do with pink. It was just at the time it was called like that. So now,
I actually have that color in oils. But let me. How come you haven't done a palette, a Sargent palette in watercolor, like a set? Do you have a set?
No, we don't. But I have to tell you, in fact, I just mentioned, I don't want to go too deep in that, but we just Savoir-Faire, my company, we just have evolved, and now we merged with another company. So I will be able to delegate a lot of the operation side of my business to focus more, and we'll have more opportunity and liberty to create these kind of things. Because to create a set, you know, there's a lot of things, but our idea, I'm looking forward not only to use original of our master, historical master with colors, you know, we can have the Cézanne set, the Monet set, the Sargent sets and all that, the people who've used our product, but we want also to promote contemporary artists color palette. And I think we've talked to Adrienne and among one of them that perhaps we're going to start working. In fact, we're talking with Remar about possibly partnering where they could put together sets per teacher, per artist, the friends of Savoir-Faire, friends of Remar, or other partners. So we'll get there. Soon,
yeah, good.
next year,
Very
we'll
good.
start with that. But now,
Okay.
let's go. Show us your work. Show us everything.
You want to show you want me to show you studio?
Yes.
All right, let me see if I could do this. I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to flip it around and start showing you. This is fun. This is one of the paintings I did, watercolors I did on the island. They had some lemon trees. So I set up and painted this watercolor from life, of course. And wait until you see what I'll do with this in oil, because I will blow this painting up to maybe, I'm thinking about 48 by 48, 4 feet by 4 feet.
Wow.
And then this is a little gouache / watercolor on hot press. And it just, you know, it's very expressive. I really like this little one. And look at how different that is from this little gouache painting. This is a very, very minimalistic gouache painting of just the ocean on a gray day I was standing there. And this also is gouache at that same scene, you know. And I would love to work more with your gouache paints, Pierre. I don't know if you know,
Yeah,
do
so we have different gouache.
but I'd
So
love to get
we'll
that.
talk about that because we have 3 kinds of gouache.
Yeah.
We have our gouache that we developed was original. It's very rare for us that we do that because we are specialized in high-end, you know, the professional quality. But we had developed a gouache that we call the Savoir-Faire gouache, which is more of an entry level, but still pretty good, very good for the price. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I use first.
Yeah.
That's what I use for this.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I use for this. Yeah. That's a very simple set, you know. So
wow, that's very impressive. So, and then we have others. Sennelier makes a gouache, but we are revisiting it because we want to upgrade the quality because it hasn't been revisited since the 18th century. But what we do have that I highly recommend to experiment, and if we haven't sent you yet any, we have this very unique gouache from Lascaux. Lascaux is a Swiss company that's specialized, that they invented acrylic in Europe, kind of a similar time that acrylic was invented in
I'd love to try it. Yeah.
And they make, it's an acrylic polymer, but reversible. You know that you can reverse light watercolor. They have a unique technology, and it's quite special. So I'll make sure Andrew will send you some sample. In fact, Cindy, who is behind the scene here, who helps us with all the social media, who helps us with the live, in the background, have just told us, just experimented with it, and I think we got very good feedback. So yes, we'll take care of you, but let's go back to your studio.
Okay, so this is these are watercolors. This is a very loose watercolor, and I've done a series of oil paintings of figures in the water, and I've never thought to do watercolor, and this was the first study I did, and I realized that I should have been doing painting in watercolor all this time to inform me what to do. So that's one, but here's a little more detailed one, Pierre, of watercolor. You see, there's a figure with bird.
Wow, you see, that's incredible because there's such a difference in style. One could think it's not the same artist. You know?
No. I'm all over the place. So this is another watercolor from the island. Very quick, big washes. You know, this is on the Fabriano. I think it's the cold press. I don't know exactly which one. And this one is one of my favorites here. This is a study. I sat in the woods, and the Pennsylvania woods is rich and deep, lots of decay, lots of beautiful texture. And I sat and painted this log, and you can see, you know, you can't really do this. This is a little painting and a little study that I can. It's going to be really fun to do an oil painting of this, and I know I won't get the same feel, but it really, I could, you know, the point of this, you can, with a watercolor, you can smell it, you can feel it, you know. And then this is very different. See this page here, you'll see 5 different studies of the woods, and very, very abstract, very high key here, and then very broken, almost, you know, no space, just no depth, only texture and small and different sizes. And then this one is like a Jackson Pollock, you know. So this is how I inform myself, by switching gear while I'm painting. This is very traditional. This is just a straightforward painting from life. You know, just, this is the field across the street from my studio. I just sat up and painted it. And then this one is another one right below. I did 2 in a row of just the sky, you see?
Fantastic.
Yeah, so those is just, you know, the fun thing. That's beside, of course, you know, sitting next to it are my oil paintings, which are entirely different. You can see, looking back, this is one in progress, and next to it is that. And then look at this one I'm painting of Adrian. Very different. You see?
Fantastic. I
So,
love all those
I'm
yellows.
sorry,
Thank you.
Apologize. I cannot see you for some reason. I don't see you. There is a lapse and all that. So I let Andrew in, because me, I'm not in sync with what you show.
Pierre sees it just a few seconds later.
Okay, I see. No worries. So yeah, here's one that I did, that one of my first watercolor that I did when I got back into it. So that was fun. And here's a portrait of my friend Daniel Sprick. I'll show you this in watercolor.
Oh,
so,
yes. Yeah,
you know,
your roommate, I mean, a studio mate in Denver, right?
Yes, yeah. So I have 3 studios in Denver. 2 of them is in one location, you know, on front studio, back studio, and then one at the Art Students League. And then I built a studio here in Pennsylvania. So I jokingly say to Adrian that I would like to eventually have 10 studios all over the place.
So, we have a studio for you in Brittany.
Oh yes.
You can check with Ed is in charge of coordinating our friends to go there. So check with Vered, but we'd love to have you there. You can have, it could be your,
oh yes, we've talked about that.
Or something.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Let me quickly give you a quick glance at my studio here. This is a painting that I'm trying out in 2 different color themes. One is gold, and the other one is greenish, and it's really a lot of fun, because I'm constantly playing with new ideas, and it's very what's the name of the artist? Thomas Wilmer Dewing, the American painter. He played with color theme like this, and so. My studio consists of these 4 large, really large, 8 feet by 8 feet windows. And then this is a painting I'm working on right now. Let me see if I can turn on the light here. This is a still life, large still life. I know, you know, you were so gracious. I was in a bind, and you guys sent me like 10 tubes of the Sennelier titanium white, which saved my behind. And I was able to use that. And so that's a large still life that I was still working on. And here's a painting of Adrian. And I know Adrian is having so much fun with your oils, Pierre. She uses colors that I don't use. She uses really vibrant, wonderful colors that works for her. And I use a very traditional palette in the sense of cadmium, yellow, red, orange, cadmium. I like the cadmium yellow, light, medium, and deep. And then I have alizarin crimson, maybe permanent rose. I love your king's blue, and then the ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, and that kind of thing. And then the greens, I have viridian and sap green and a bright green. And then for the as far as the browns go, here you have the titanium white, and then yellow ochre, transparent red oxide, raw umber, and then black. That's essentially, so it's not real exciting, but it works for me. And she will use emerald green or all these different things that I don't even know the name of them.
No, but that's very interesting. In fact, I really love when Adrienne was on the live and we talked about that as her perspective. And it's sort of a new trend, and I don't remember the word she used, but how she was inspired by all those black mixed colors.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a new trend. As I was saying then, it's interesting. A lot of great painter today, of the master painter like you and many, or the Richard Schmidt and all this group, they usually work from traditional, very limited palette. That's been the case on the ateliers and all that the last many years. And it's only recently that some of those super professional artists discover the beauty of using occasionally some pre-mixed color, because they are quite something, and it's much easier than trying to replicate every time your own mixing. So, I
that's true.
was very well spoken about that. So
yeah, I think that's true. I think the pre-mix, and also they are much more pure than I can mix it myself on the palette. Yeah, it's great.
So, how are we doing on time, Mr. Andrew?
We've got a little over 10 minutes left.
Okay. Oh, it's you, Pierre. There we go.
We're back, right?
Yeah, I see him, but I don't hear him.
Okay, so in 10 minutes, first of all, we have to make sure that
Yes.
Cindy doesn't have some announcement and all that, but she'll come in when necessary, because we do a giveaway and we want to make sure people know who wins and all that. So Cindy will give a holler to Andrew. But in the 10 minutes that we have left, we can chat. Are you in a position to show something? Can you have a couple minutes? Can you?
Yeah, sure.
A real demonstration, but just a stroke, just something.
Well, let me show you. I have I actually have a panel that it's a Raymar sent me this panel a while back. It's a watercolor panel, so I do have one right here. And then I have your Sommelier travel set, which I really love. And you can't see it. You can't see it, Pierre, can you? But that's what I've got.
Okay.
And so, do you want me to do something with it? I want to mention too, my favorite surface to do oil painting on is the L64C. You know that. It is my favorite, hands down. If only I have one canvas to work on for the rest of my life, that would be the one. And you introduced me to that.
And that's a whole long story with the 64, not because I've worked with the 64 with people including David Hockney and things like that. So the 64 has been very famous thanks to Raymar, because they decided finally to put it in a panel, and it's really thanks to Catherine and Emily that really Artfix 64 has become really very known.
For those who don't know what Artfix L64 is, can you guys just tell us a little bit about what exactly the composition is?
Okay, so I'll say quickly where it comes from, and then Quang will say his experience as a painter. So Artfix, it's a manufacturer. It's a little, not even a factory, a little atelier, we say in France, in the south of France, near Saint-Paul-de-Vence, where Picasso, Degas, there's a lot of very known for that. And they're priming Lennon the same way it was done 100 years ago, but with additional tweak. But it's hand prime, and it's a sizing which is rabbit skin glue, but also synthetic sizing, so double sizing. And then we go up to 4 layers.
4 layers.
Oil prime, which C for cerise, it was originally a lead, but we found, and we cannot disclose, we found a lead substitute that gives the look, the feel, the absorption, and the beauty of that. But the fact we have hand primed 4 times gives that very special feel, smoothness and things. So that's how we make it. How does it feel for you?
Oh gosh, it feels now it works for me because it does have a little bit of absorption. If it's lead white, it stays on the surface, but it stays on the surface enough for me, but it has a little bite to it too. I feel like I can do anything on it. It holds detail beautifully. But when I want to scrape, and which I do a lot, I put paint on, I scrape it, I move it around, it behaves beautifully on that for me too. So I'm doing that. That still life is on L64C I just showed you. And so, yeah, I ordered a giant roll and I've been working with that. So I've been, I'm going to run out of it really fast here. But I just love it. I use it for everything. I mount it, I stretch it. You know, I do small paintings, large paintings with it. But
So
Catherine and
do you have time?
Yeah. Catherine and Emily just said hello. I saw that, and Emily was the one to introduce me to it. You know, of course. So let me show you. I don't know if you can see all this. I wasn't going to.
We can see it. And while you're setting that up, let me just announce real quick. Cindy let us know that the winner of our drawing this week is Prune Goon.
Prune Goon. Woo! I love the name.
Who is that?
And,
I'm not sure.
I just wanted to thank Catherine and Emily again. We are sharing the giveaway, and they were so generous to give, a panel. I forgot if you decided to do the watercolor panel or the 64, the watercolor panel, because while it gets ready, what Remar did and what we partner, we have a baby in common using our Fabriano Artistico mounted on aluminum. So it's very, very special. And so anyway, but let's go to your quick little demo before we get shut down.
All right. I'm semi-prepared for this. Hang on. I'm going to just pour out some water.
Okay, so while he does that, let me explain, because it's all improvised. We don't.
Oh, totally.
There was no plan. We didn't know he was going to paint, so that's why we're not organized. It's not a production.
Now, we weren't sure if we were going to do this, were we?
No, that's what I'm saying to the audience. That's why we're not prepared, because we go with the flow, and you are kind of to be spontaneous. So I'll put you on the spot.
Oh, good. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do either, so we just have some fun here. This is your watercolor, you could see. And so let's, you start with a wash. I'll just do a face, and we'll let it emerge out of this. This is the wonderful thing about watercolor that you just can't do with oil. There's a sense of it being so surprising what will happen to it. And I dab, you can dab and you pull.
I'm going to do it at the same time.
Can you? Can you see what's going on?
I'm just going to improvise. I doodle. I'm not, so I can't get.
Let me move this over here. Maybe you can see, so my hand is not in the way.
So tell me, which color are you starting with?
I am using, you would ask me. When I'm painting, Pierre, I don't think about color.
Okay,
I see color. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So if you're going to ask me, it's going to slow me down.
No, I'm not asking. Go with the.
So I see blue, I see brown, I see little warms and reds and so on and so forth. So I just pull things together like this. And of course, we're doing a very, very fast painting here, just to show what might happen. So all I have time right now to do is a sense of shadow and light, is to put down a few shapes, and then we can do more detail on it. And with watercolor, you know, you start with these broad masses like that, and you pull the edges. You can control the edges like that. And if I'm really experimental, you know, you could always push the colors even more than the traditional way of not traditional, but you know, you could blend, you push cools and warms. Like for example, I can toss greens into areas like this where I may not think to do that with oil painting. With the watercolor, I can push and pull like this, and then let the whole thing melt together. Can you see what's going on?
Yeah, I can see some.
Okay. And
with a delay, but
you know, and then the darks right now, as the water is wet, I can as the board is wet, I can go in there and lay in some broad strokes that I know will blend. Oh, dropped a sword. And this board is, what a wonderful idea to have a watercolor board.
yeah, that was a long work. You know, we went through everything. You know, we worked with a lot of watercolor artists like Matthew Bird, Lauren McCracken, Keiko Tanabe. You know, a lot of our friends watercolorists. Oh my God, it took a year or two for us to figure it out, and that's how we came up. Remar came up with the aluminum, but we started with many different other surfaces, and it was interesting. You know, we learned that some artists would soak the paper, so we had some
Oh wow.
panel, and they said, "Oh yeah, I left the panel overnight in my bathtub. You know, is it normal that it wobbles?" Oh my God!
Wow.
So how we came up with the aluminum.
So aluminum is lighter, yes?
But it's lighter and it takes water. That is, you know, it's very, and it's the most archival you can be. So,
Really? Wow.
so the idea behind it is also to elevate, you know, even the price. You know, when you go to a gallery, you know, the same watercolor on a sheet of paper, and you know, or on a panel, aluminum panel, archival, blah blah blah. You can sell it for twice the price.
Interesting. Yeah, it has a different perception to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see here this right now, the whole surface of this is very wet, and so I'm working wet into wet, and then as this dries, I can go in and control my detail more. You know.
Yeah.
That's the fun bit about watercolor, is you could really have and that's part of the learning is knowing when you're ready for the next phase, you know. So I'll just do a couple more strokes here.
So we have 2 more minutes. So we'd like to say goodbye before we got shut off. It's not polite. So first of all, I want to thank you, everybody who came today. Congratulations to the winner, and Quang, thank you so much. And continue, as I speak, continue to paint. People love it. So please continue. I was just wondering if you can look at your phone. Do you remember about this painting? You know who painted that painting?
Oh, of course I did. I did that at the Portrait Society. You sat for me for a very quick time, did you not?
Yes, but it was very special. Unfortunately, it reminds us of someone we lost this year. But remember, there was Daniel Green, David Casson, Adrian. You know, I was posing, and there was, you know, 5 or 6 rock star of portrait rock star painting me. So it was very special. I remember at the end, there was you and David Casson, kind of it was sort of almost like a competition, and it was so fun. With such a different style. It was fascinating because you both approached the painting so differently. It looked like, and then
Yes.
towards the end, they sort of, it's a different style, but started to come together. So it was
right. I remember David's painting of you. Adrienne did a pastel, did she not?
Yes, she told me, oh, maybe I'll try your pastel. I haven't done pastel. I tried pastel once a long time ago, and then right away she did an amazing away pastel. So
she's a pretty good little painter.
yeah. So okay, on that note, we're gonna have to. You can continue to paint, but I'm gonna say goodbye because again we're gonna get shut down. So thank you.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Well, do we want Quang to say his words of wisdom before you say goodbye?
Course.
We have
Yes,
1 minute.
we have 1 minute. So
you want what?
You have the final word. I mean, I have a mini final word, but tell us a good word of wisdom. We are coming to the holidays. We've had a tough year. We are in the art. Tell us an inspiration, uplifting message.
I think the main thing for me, the biggest realization in my life is that you can't listen to the small self. And that self is the self that tells you to be afraid of things, afraid of everything. That small self is afraid of everything. You know, it creates fear, and including painting. You follow your joy and not the fear. If you have a reservation about something you want to do, you feel like I want to do this, but then immediately you feel like, oh, but no one's going to get it, or who's going to understand it. That's the fear part that comes up. You listen to that first impulse, and that's the way I try to. That's why I live my painting, and the way I try to live my life is I have the impulse, and you know, unless you're hurting somebody, which is not usually the case, but try to remember to follow that first impulse.
All right, and to be intuitive, to believe in you. Just go. Don't listen to the social constraints in the art world. So thank you. There was one more thing, but we'll talk another time. I really wanted to discuss your MFA school concept movie, but we don't have time now. But to come back, you will come back and
sure. Well, everybody, you can go to mfa.studio and find out about it. That's something I'm developing right now. That's going to hopefully make it very available to everybody to have a very affordable way to learn painting.
Okay, and I will work with you. We'll talk offline. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
Go paint!
So great to see you.
Great weekend.
Thanks, everybody. All right, take care, guys.